So I've been asked a bunch of times by a lot of people to give my opinion on what I think about the new Harley-Davidson Livewire. It's finally coming out. A little disappointed, no one ever called me to take it for a spin. I generally have a lot of good stuff to say about Harley-Davidson and their new stuff, and I like the direction that they're going. I think it's very important that Harley does and move, that Harley's moving in those directions, but I do have a little bit of criticism. Let's talk about the Livewire. MSRP is $29,997. It's a $30,000 motorcycle, so it's not cheap. It's probably one of the most expensive electric motorcycles on the market today, and that's kind of what their thing is. They're cool with that. You know, they're saying it's a premium motorcycle. Okay, that's cool. But when you have a premium motorcycle, does it really perform at the level of does that perform better than the other motorcycles that are not considered premium motorcycles? The Livewire's weighing in at, I think, 570 pounds, so it's not a light bike. But, you know, you also have to understand that anytime something first comes out, you know, anytime the brand new iPhone came out, you know, I mean, people were paying big money for it. People were stepping up to pay for it because they wanted it. Are we gonna get the same thing happening when it comes to, like, the Harley-Davidson Livewire? So, just a couple quick specs. It's doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. That's awesome. That's a pretty quick bike. It's about 570 pounds. It's, when you convert the electric, you know, kilowatt hours to horsepower, it ends up being around 105 horsepower. So it's a decently powerful bike. When you have the instant torque, I'm sure it's a blast to drive. I'm sure it's awesome and just tons of fun to drive. But the range is only 126 miles, and that's city range. So when they're giving you these ranges, it's a city range. It's gonna be much higher than the highway range. So when they say 120 some miles or 130 miles, 150 miles, it's gonna be in the city. You put that on the highway, probably gonna be about half of that, because it's just not as efficient. Compare that to like the Zero, you know, the Zero motorcycle, Zero SR, I think it is. That thing's doing like 240 city, and then it's doing like 100 something on the highway. This is gonna be close to half of that, which I think is fine. I think they're trying to push to a market that's not trying to do, you know, we're just not at the point right now where electric motorcycles are touring across the country. But we have to go through these steps, you know, where it's like, oh, I can't believe you guys are buying these bikes at this point. You know, look at where we're going with other technologies, and it's like, wow, you guys did that? It's like, yeah, but this was cool back then. This was the unique thing. I wanted to be a part of that. And that's what people are looking for. So I'm okay with the range not being that well. The problem is, who are they going to market these bikes to? Because Harley, historically, Harley riders do not like new stuff. Harley riders get mad and annoyed every time you try to. It took 12 years for Harley riders to be okay with them making a motorcycle where the engine was balanced and water cooled, and that was the V-Rod. It took so long for Harley riders to finally accept the V-Rod as actually being a Harley-Davidson, when it was a V-twin muscle bike. It's like, what is there to hate about it? And then, even though Harley riders accepted it, they didn't really buy it that much, and Harley stopped making it about a year ago. So how do they really think that they're gonna make an electric motorcycle, which is way far on the other side of the field, than just a motorcycle that's balanced and water cooled, and it's gonna be okay with Harley riders? And so when I asked the guy at the Harley-Davidson dealership one time, I was like, hey, who are you really marketing this bike to? Well, hold on, let's go back to that. Look at another bike that they were trying to mix stuff up with. The Harley-Davidson FXDR. Cool looking bike. It's more of a muscle bike, more of a sporty stance. And as soon, you know, most Harley-Davidson dealerships, they got one, and a lot of times they sold them fairly quick. And then it was because they sold them so quick, they got a second one. Well, that second one is still sitting on their showroom floor right now. And I got a chance to drive one pretty early, and I actually liked it. It was quick. It was a very aggressive bike. You know what I mean? The seating was more like this. You know, it was very aggressive the way you sit on it. And I loved it. I thought it was great. But it was not the normal Harley bike. It was more of a, you know, race around with your buddies. It was a muscle bike. It was a full-blown muscle bike. It's not comfortable for long trips. It's just cool looking, and it was just fun. It was really fun to drive. It would be like if the Harley guy wanted something that was fast instead of buying a sport bike, but he wanted to stay Harley, that's what he would buy. But it didn't do very well, although it's a super cool bike. When I talked to the guys at Harley-Davidson, and I said, what is who is your target market for this bike, they told me something that really blew my mind away. And I was like, that's your plan? That's your target market? And they said Tesla owners. Their target market is Tesla owners. And I was like, wow, that's really, it's kind of strange that you would make a bike, make a Harley, sell it under the Harley brand, but have a completely different, I mean, if there was two sides of the bus where Harley guys sit on this side and the Tesla owners would sit on the other side, they're completely different people, and you're trying to connect them. And you're doing the same thing under the same brand, and I'm like, that's just kind of strange. Now, that makes sense when it comes to the high price point, but I've never heard of any Tesla owners being like, I'm waiting for Harley-Davidson to put out a bike. I've never heard the Harley-Davidson guys saying, I'm waiting for Harley to put out an electric bike. So I don't know how well that's gonna work. Now, I hope Harley does well. I want Harley to do well. I think we all do. I think it's in the best interest of everyone in America that Harley-Davidson does well and produces great bikes and continues producing great bikes. And I think Harley needs to change. Harley needs to continue, when you look at the stats of Harley-Davidson, the sales are slowing down a little bit. Mainly the young guys are not buying as many bikes. So they need to diversify a little bit. They need to start being bigger, have a bigger presence in the world, where you have, where in America, Harley is the biggest presence. But in the rest of the world, honestly, I think Kimco is the biggest seller of motorcycles, Kimco or Honda, which is crazy. So Harley's putting out some more bikes. They're putting out the Livewire. They're putting out a sport bike. They're putting out an enduro bike. I'm not seeing Harley guys waiting around. I've never heard a Harley guy being like, well, I want to get into enduro riding, but I'm not gonna buy one until Harley makes it. I've never heard it. Maybe it's out there. I've not seen it. So what that comes down to is you have enduro guys. And think about this. You guys who are driving the Triumph Tiger. They're driving the big bad boy at the top, the BMW R1200 GS. I cannot imagine anyone who rides a BMW R1200 GS or R1250 GS and saying, you know what, now that Harley's got into the game of making an adventure bike, I'm gonna go with that because it's American. It has to be a better bike, and it's gotta be a better value. If it's not a better bike and a better, equal or better value, no one's gonna buy it. I'm not seeing it happening. I think where Harley made a mistake, and maybe not a mistake, but I think looking back, maybe they should have done this differently, is that they should have kept the Buell line. If they would have kept the Buell line, they would already have been in, they were in adventure bikes, they were in sport bikes. It would have made more sense that there'd be a Buell sport electric motorcycle. You wouldn't have to be doing this whole rebranding thing or putting out something that's kind of different. Buell was already doing different things, and the Harley guys had already accepted it. You had guys that had 3 Harleys in their garage and a Buell because it was American. It was considered Harley-Davidson. And if they would have kept the Buell name, they could have they wouldn't be like 10, 15 years, behind. They'd be cutting edge right now, because Eric Buell did a lot of cutting edge stuff. And I think it would have been an easier transition to put out an electric Buell than an electric Harley-Davidson. So, with all that being said, I want Harley to give me one of those Livewires, or let me drop it off, let me drive it. I'm excited to ride it. I'm excited for the electric bike thing to happen. I know a lot of guys hate it, they hate the idea of it. I think it's exciting, I can't wait. Electric bikes are coming, and I'm pumped, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I'm just the tuning and the modification options. You can go on your phone and change the top speed, you can change the range. It's pretty exciting stuff. Now, are they gonna last a long time? Electric motors do last a long time. So, but I do think that Harley-Davidson, I think the price point is way too high, but they got smart people at Harley-Davidson. They got top people there, and I want them to do well. And I think we all do. So that wraps up my video. That's kind of my input on the Livewire. I have not ridden one yet. I would love to ride one. I can't wait. It should be a lot of fun. But guys, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you guys later.